Sony just changed the game, and they haven't even announced anything yet. Multiple trusted leakers have confirmed that Sony is secretly testing not one, not two, but four major lenses right now, and if even half of these actually release, Canon and Nikon should be very, very worried. If you are a Sony shooter, or even if you're thinking about switching to Sony, today's video is going to be extremely important for you. Because today we are going deep into the Sony lens rumor for 2026 and 2027. We're talking leaked images, insider sources, trusted leakers, the full picture, everything that is circulating right now about Sony's upcoming glass. So make sure you watch this till the end, because the last lens I'm going to talk about, that one is genuinely insane. Let's get into it. Sony already has one of the strongest mirrorless ecosystems on the planet. The 70 to 200 mm f2.8 GM2, the 24 to 70 mm f2.8 GM2, these are benchmark lenses. But according to multiple sources, Sony is not done. In fact, insiders are saying that 2026 could be Sony's most ambitious lens year ever. We're talking about a complete refresh of the E-mount lineup from ultra-wide all the way to super telephoto. Multiple trusted leakers, including the highly reliable how-to fly-in sources, have all been pointing in the same direction. Something big is coming, so let's break down each rumored lens one by one. Now let me explain why this lens is such a massive deal. Right now, the fastest ultra-wide zoom on the full-frame market sits at f2.8. That's it. Every manufacturer, Canon, Nikon, Sony themselves, they're all at f2.8 for ultra-wide zooms. Nobody has ever shipped a constant f2 ultra-wide zoom for full frame. Nobody. And according to trusted leaker confirmed by sources, Sony is about to be the first company in history to do exactly that. The 16 to 28 mm f2 GM, the world's fastest ultra-wide zoom lens ever made. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. This lens isn't random. It's the final piece of what Sony is calling the f2 zoom trinity. They already launched the 28 to 70 mm f2 GM and the 50 to 150 mm f2 GM. This 16 to 28 mm f2 completes that entire trinity, covering ultra-wide all the way to short telephoto, all at a constant f2 aperture. That is an absolutely unprecedented lineup that no other brand can match right now. In terms of leaked specs, the lens is expected to cover a 107 to 75 degree field of view with a complex optical formula specifically engineered to control distortion and flare. And the rumored price? Around $2,999. Yes, it's expensive. But compare that to the fact that Canon's RF 15 to 35 mm OF 2.8 is already over $2,000. You're getting an entire stop more light for not that much more money. Who is this for? Landscape photographers, architecture shooters, astrophotographers, vloggers who need that wide cinematic look with incredible low-light performance. This lens is going to be a monster. Confidence level on this one? Very high. Multiple independent sources have confirmed it. This is not just a whisper. The current 100 to 400 mm GM has been around since 2017. That's nearly a decade old. And while it's still a great lens, the autofocus, the optical formula, the build, all of it is overdue for a serious upgrade. According to sources and Sony Addict, leaked pictures of this lens have already surfaced, and here's what the leaks are telling us. First, it's going to be an internal zoom design. That means the barrel won't extend when you zoom in. That's a big deal for weather sealing and handling. Second, the length is said to be similar to the FE 200 to 600 mm G. And third, the pricing is expected to be comparable to the FE 50 to 150 mm GM, which puts it in the premium but not ultra-expensive category. And here's the timing detail that's really interesting. Multiple sources were pointing to a May 2026 announcement, possibly alongside the rumored Sony A7R6. So this could literally be just around the corner. For sports shooters, wildlife photographers, bird photographers, this is the upgrade you've been waiting for almost 10 years. Improved optics, faster AF that can handle Sony's latest AI subject recognition, and that internal zoom for a cleaner, more professional shooting experience. Confidence level, extremely high. Leaked images are already out. This one is essentially confirmed. Now here's one that doesn't get talked about enough, and I think it's actually one of the most exciting for a huge chunk of Sony shooters. The Sony FE 100 to 400 mm G, a more affordable, lighter version of the telephoto zoom. While the GM2 is going after professional sports and wildlife photographers, Sony is reportedly also working on a separate budget-friendly 100 to 400 mm under the G series, not GM. Variable aperture, lighter build, simplified optical formula, and a significantly lower price point. Think about what this means. Right now, if you want Sony telephoto reach beyond 200 millimeters without going to the massive 200 to 600 millimeters, your options are limited and expensive. This G version lens would open up that telephoto range to enthusiast photographers, travelers, people who want reach without breaking the bank or destroying their back. This rumor is slightly less confirmed than the GM2, but multiple sources, including sources, have reported on it. And honestly, but from a business strategy standpoint, it makes complete sense for Sony to offer both a pro version and an accessible version in the same focal range. Confidence level? Moderate to high. Multiple sources, strong business logic behind it. A 200mm prime at f2. Let that sink in for a second. Now, Sony has never made a 200mm f2 lens for the E-mount. Ever. This focal length and aperture combination is legendary in the industry. Canon has had their 200mm f2 LISUSM for years. It's one of the most coveted lenses in professional sports and portrait photography, and Sony shooters have been begging for something equivalent for a long time. According to sources and multiple leaker reports, a prototype of this lens has already been spotted in testing. That's significant because when prototypes are spotted in the wild, it usually means we're past the concept stage and into real production development. Now let's talk about what a 200mm f2 GM would actually do. At f2, you get background separation that is absolutely surgical. We're talking about subject isolation at a level that makes even the best f2.8 telephotos look soft in comparison. For sports photographers, frozen action in very low light. For portrait photographers, creamy bokeh that you simply cannot replicate with anything slower. This lens would directly rival Canon's equivalent and potentially become Sony's new flagship telephoto prime. Pricing, unknown, but a lens like this, probably north of $5,000, possibly significantly more. This is pro-level glass for working professionals. Timeline. This one is more likely a 2027 release rather than 2026. The prototype stage suggests it's still some time away from being production ready, but the fact that it exists and is being tested, that's already huge news. Confidence level? Moderate. Prototype spotted. Multiple sources reporting, but still in early stages. Look at what Sony is building here. A 16 to 28mm f2 GM at the wide end. A 28 to 70mm f2 GM and 50 to 150mm f2 GM in the middle. A 100 to 400mm f4.5 GM2 for reach, and a potential 200mm f2 GM prime as the flagship telephoto. This is not a company filling small gaps in their lineup. This is Sony making a statement that the E-mount ecosystem is the most complete, the most optically advanced full-frame mirrorless system on the planet. Canon's RF mount has incredible glass. Nikon's Z mount has been catching up fast. But if all of these Sony lenses materialize, the competition is going to have a very hard time responding. Alright guys, that is everything we know right now about Sony's rumored lens lineup for 2026 and 2027. To recap quickly, the 16 to 28mm f2 GM, which could be the world's fastest ultra-wide zoom, the 100 to 400mm of 4.5 GM2, which has already been leaked in photos, the budget-friendly 100 to 400mm G for enthusiasts, and the absolutely monstrous 200mm f2 GM prototype that is currently being tested. Remember, these are all rumors and leaks. Things can change. Release dates can shift. But the sources on most of these are strong, and the photography world is watching very closely. If you found this video useful, smash that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you think. Subscribe if you're new, because we cover every major leak and rumor as it drops. And drop a comment below. Which of these four lenses are you most excited about? I personally cannot wait for the 16 to 28 millimeters f2. That thing is going to be a game changer. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.